Well, look at this. We're back again. I just realized that the music that I play as the intro to these virtual tastings is not coming through. That was fun. Good to see that technical hiccups can still happen even in the age of new cameras, as you all like to remark on sometimes and see what's going on. Great to see you all tuning in. Where's Bailey? Here he is, throwing your comments up on the screen as we go. Rob Akers says, sup. Good to see you all, and we have a special guest, as you would have seen from the main screen that I showed just now. There he is on the right, of course, the one and only Alex Moores. I was going to use that photo of him as I've used for the card to introduce him. He is outdoors right now waiting for us. But I was also going to use the ladies look out photo. I didn't tell him I was going to use this as the intro for to bring him on stage today. So there we go. I've just done it. There we go. So ladies look out. Here he is, Alex Moores.
Hello. That is a very contrast from this to that. Is a very, very different me.
And on the other side of the world in that photo, and here with us in this world.
That's right. Still stuffing the bottles away and nicking stuff, but some things never change.
Some things never change, exactly. No, thank you so much for joining us, everyone, tonight, and thank you, Morsey, for tuning in. Tonight is all about great outdoors. I've gone so far as to have my window open, which I'm getting all this natural light from right now. And Morsey's actually gone so far as to actually be outside for this tasting because it is a lovely evening out tonight, this evening. And we encourage you to do the same, even just, nice cockroaches background noise, exactly. Like, this is about the great outdoors. I mean, the more background noises of birds and everything and crickets you can hear, the better it is, because that's what tonight is all about. Pardon me. So, grab your packs. Your packs look like, well, I've got the box here somewhere. I promise I do. I've already unwrapped it. That's the problem. I'm throwing it out. But in your packs have a whole bunch of samples that we encourage you to pre-pour the 5.103 Fruity Floral Fantasy. So I'm going to just change our screens around a little bit here, and I didn't raise up. Here we go. Couldn't possibly tell you what distillery this is. Distillery 5, the fifth distillery to join the Society's ranks, and cask 103 is from the only distillery in Scotland that continuously triple distills their spirit. We'll talk more about triple distillation in a moment. But as we bring up some of the images from this lovely distillery, and of course, the bottling itself, here we go. Fruity Floral Fantasy. I'm looking forward to this one, actually. Okay, what have we got here?
Pre-pouring is a good idea, I think, because it definitely is opening up pretty rapidly.
Yeah.
My glass.
This is exciting. Now, you know what? Okay. Distillery 5 is one of the distilleries that I think really does get a bit of a, like a bit of a bum rap from some whiskey nerds in terms of the core range a bit. Maybe they overlook it a bit. They go, oh, yeah, that was where I started with whiskey, and I'm not really I've progressed from this whiskey maybe in some cases.
It's famously is, even though it's Distillery 5, which has got a whole story behind why it was the fifth one involving Andana, but Pip never really liked it.
Yep, that's
famously said he thought it tasted like soap, which I've never associated until he said that with Distillery 5. I've heard it for others, but not for this distillery. But
maybe even Distillery 3 you've heard it for as well.
Or maybe, I don't know. I couldn't possibly comment, but
no comment. And it's actually worth remarking we've cracked the 100 mark on the number of casks that we've bottled from Distillery 5 over the last 40 years now, which is quite a milestone. But we've had this string of mid 50%, like 55.5, 18, 19-year-old casks coming through. And this one is a little bit wild and wacky because it's, just take a look at that label on the screen right now. It says Society cask number 5.103, outturn 1 of 78. That's a tiny outturn. So we've got 24 of these bottles in the country for the whole Australian membership. So we essentially took on about a third of the cask that this yielded, or I should say just over a quarter, under a third, but like we let's say a fifth or so of the cask, because no, that's the other way around. Anyway, we got over a quarter of the cask, but this is because there wasn't much to go around, and we were lucky to be able to grab one of these and to get a 19-year-old Lowland single cask whiskey, full maturation in a first fill ex-bourbon.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if this correlates, but there's a few historical examples of really low yield casks, which, could be leakers, could be underfill, could be whatever. They're usually maybe the extra like room in the cask while they're maturing, and that extra level of oxidization or wood contact or whatever. I don't know what's happening with them, if they're moving them around or they're just leaving them dormant, but they're always just more fruity for some reason.
Yeah,
Um,
they're almost more. They're almost. I know what you're saying, and some of them we've had these low outtone ones are almost more concentrated.
yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's like cordial concentrate versus cordial or something.
Yeah, there was a distillery six, I think it had about 72 bottles, um, going back a little way, but that was had a name something like "Is this a damson that I see before me?" And it was like thick, syrupy damson gin, like,
Oh yeah, yep.
basically like slow gin. I think damson gin's more popular in the UK, but yeah, really rich. That's really good on the nose, though.
Isn't it? Isn't that just the most perfect summer drinker?
It's funny because I think triple distilled cops a bit of a funny rap because maybe when it's particularly in 40% form, it's really thin and it doesn't really hold a heap of that flavour that people who love double distilled malt like. But when you've got a nice cask strength triple distill, for me it just comes out as super clean. Like
Mm.
it's got a really well made spirit vibe to it. But just because it's had that extra round of distillation to clean it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. You know, it's just on your point about talking about triple distillation. I'm just going to go back to that first slide for a second. So we can see there's three stills here. So the spirit actually goes through all three at some point. I can't really comment on the process or speed of which they do that, but it's very much a proper triple distilled. So if you single distill, you're going to get that proof. The spirit proof will come off at around 35% ABV. You double distill, it comes off the still around 68 to 75%. But in the case of triple distilling, it comes off the stills really high. Like it comes off the stills at like 80, 85, 90, 95% ABV in some distilleries' cases. And they bring it down to filling strength into the cask, in which case I think this distillery still fills at 63.5 or 68.5%. And then matures. Now, of course, the more copper contact that spirit gets, the less heavy sulfuric compounds that it gets. Which is why this is the spirit from Distillery 5, which is always triple distilled, is one of those distillates that's always very very clean, very floral, very light, and I think that's really expressed in the core range. But I think it's even better expressed in a single cask as well. Yeah. Okay. So we've got Rob Baker saying a touch of shaved toasted coconut. That's a good tasting note. Yeah, I totally agree. It's got that like. This is very tempting bottling. Actually, this is really nice.
Yeah, it's definitely got even just picking up on the front panel note, that sort of creme anglaise. It's definitely got a bakery vanilla element to it as well as being very, very fruity.
Oh, I also just gotta say, like, getting a 19-year-old full maturation first fill whiskey at cask strength of 275 is also good value. Yeah, like a tiny
how
little,
often?
Yeah.
How often do you see this distillery in cask strength form as well? I mean,
actually,
very rarely.
I will say actually a bit of a personal anecdote on this one. Not this particular cask, but this distillery. There was a bottling about 10 years ago, just called this distillery's name, and the name of the bottling was called Valinch, and it was a cask strength core range version of this whiskey, and it was very short lived. It was supposed to be core range. It was supposed to maintain this core range, but I later found out that the US market or whatever didn't really take up on it. They didn't care about it, and so it didn't really sell very well internationally. So they didn't keep it going. And of course, Australia is not a big enough market for one distillery to say, "Oh, we're going to keep that expression forever." And it was only a slight premium above the the non-cask strength version. And I remember picking it up, just like, "All right, I'll give that a go," kind of moment. And it was phenomenal. It was creamy, like lemon zest. That whole sort of like cinnamon and vanilla and custard cream kind of stuff going on.
Yeah, yep. Beautiful.
And I guess this reminds me of that.
If your audience is more about sort of trying to originally break into maybe the Irish whiskey drinker, the lighter whiskey drinker market compared to other Scotch whiskies, very hard to then do a pivot and go, well, let's add some cask strength in, because probably your core audience aren't in it for that.
Mm. That's a very, very good call.
That's lovely. That just gets better and better.
I might. Have you added any water to yours? I might add a drop to mine to see how it goes.
I think I will because it's got a nice heat on it, but I think
Mm.
it would just become even more of a fruit bomb.
Yeah, it does. It does.
Yeah, I'm going to do it.
Those who are tuning in live with us, thank you so much for joining in, by the way. And if there's anyone who wants to throw their comments, any other comments to do with this first whiskey, we'd love to hear how you're going with it.
I must say, for the first time I think we probably had a conversation about water on a live, I was firmly of the pipette camp. And then at the time, you were more of the jug. Yep. And I've come around. I think
Look,
it's a time and a place.
scientific.
I still use it. Yes. Yeah.
It's less scientific. It's less accurate. You need to have a bit of a careful eye and hand when doing so. But I think it's more. It feels more like what drinking whiskey should be for me.
That's yeah. Agreed.
And it just takes me back. There's a small part of using a water jug for me that takes me back to that whole sort of like, if you, and not everyone would have experienced this, of course, but it's like that thing where it's like if you're in Scotland and you're at this fusty old pub that has whiskey on the back bar, and they pass you a whiskey in a small spey glass with a little water jug.
Yeah,
it just comes with a water jug. It doesn't come with a pipette. It doesn't come with any other scientific materials. And it's like, for me, that just feels like, oh, that's a beautiful moment. Is enjoying whiskey in a
absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember when it was, when you were sort of new to it and you had all these idols of like the absolute big names globally in whiskey, and you just thought, okay, well, everyone talks about adding water. We'd already discarded the notion you couldn't add water, but then we were all doing it by going, yep, you've got to, put a tiny, tiny bit. And you see anyone like a McEwen, McLean, Pip, whoever, Patterson, putting water in, they just slug it in. Like it's 50-50, it's maybe more water than whiskey, because then you can just put them back, quaff it down, and it's a nice drink.
Yeah,
But
and it is a nice
science.
drink. and you could play the nose. You could play the role of Richard Patterson, and you could do the, as he says, hold it and check the temperature.
Yeah.
Maybe more of a problem in British pubs or something than, as he says, and
Yes,
warm water in his jug, and he's like, don't let it ruin your dram.
Yeah, that's true. We could just go outside and it's fine. Whereas go outside when you're whiskey drinking weather in Scotland and you're probably actually putting ice in it.
Yeah. And then, of course, if we really want to entertain the crowd tonight and emulate, we could also say, hello. How are you?
We could do
one
it.
dram in, Mosey. We're one dram.
We didn't throw it out though. We were actually drinking it without. I've got all the other scents of the glass. It's wasted on me now.
Actually, there is one head distiller I know in Australia who does that. He pours the whiskey into a glass first, spins it around, and tosses it out, and then re-pours one into that same glass.
Yep.
But, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, if you're making it yourself, yeah.
Well, thank you for weighing in on that one, Andrew Moat. Well, it just shows that there's no rule against both of you being wrong. Yeah. You're entitled to your opinion. We all have them, and it's okay that yours is wrong. That's fine. That's right. Look, we should move on. We should.
That's very nice, though. I'm going to leave a bit of that because that's very good. I think that'll just continue to bloom.
Have you got enough glassware to go to? We're going to stick with the order. Actually, does that throw you out, Alex?
I can do what it. No, I've got a glass for each. I'm fine.
Okay, folks, we're going to go to Katsu Amid the Maple. Just bear with me here. I didn't. I've messed up my my tasting order a bit here on the spread on the imagery. So we'll just bring that back up here. Here we go. So we'll go to Katsu Amid the Maple, and this is from Distillery 155. Corbin Mondi, good to see you, mate. Hi all, hope you're having a great start to the tasting. Joining in a bit later will definitively not be outdoors in Perth's heatwave conditions, though. Yeah, you definitely will not be outdoors in Perth. Yeah, we've heard what's going on in Perth. Someone said to me, I think yesterday, they said, have you heard what's going on in Perth? And I said, no. And they said, oh, everyone's dying. I was like, what? Is there like a massive COVID wave or something? They said, no. The heat. It's just there's this huge heat wave in Perth at the moment. But that is not... You guys in Perth have definitely had heat waves before. This is not new problem for you guys. So, all right, let's go to distillery. I'm going to bring up our captions here. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. New code alert 155.2. Katsu amid the maple. Okay. So this is the first of a new code for us in Australia. Code 155. Distillery 155.1 was distributed entirely to in Israel and in the UK. So we didn't see that here, but the .2 we did get some of. And I just want to make a few points about this particular whiskey. First of all, it's the first new code. It's a new code appearance. Second of all, on the front label you can see buttery with raisins, maple syrup, and coal dust atop panna cotta. That sounds amazing to me.
Yeah.
This cask was filled with 50% unpeated and 50% peated new make. So it was actually peated and unpeated new make brought together at the make level. And then vatted into this single cask, which is kind of unusual. Not something we've done before.
Which I like, because I think I remember hearing, it's obviously a bit of a new world thing, but Dave Vitale talk about marrying or diluting down and before it's put in the cask at a lower dilution level. Argument being, well, then you're allowing more time for that liquid product to interact with the wood. I suppose the same logic here, where rather than have two entirely separate casks, you could have a full unpeated and a full peated through to maturation, mix them together, do a blending up. But if you do it at that stage, that concoction of make is getting the full benefit of that particular cask. So I think that there's a benefit in that in New World whiskies, I think. Especially because you're not going to mature it that long.
No, and let's just talk length of maturation on this. It's 4 years aged. That is a young whiskey, but I don't think anyone would argue that tastes new makey. It does taste young though. It is vibrant. It's 65.9%. It's got this lovely it does have that coal dust and like it's katsu, it's smoked cherries, I get black pepper, I get like heaps of like
black pepper, it's peppery.
Yeah, it's peppery. It's got a lot of it's a thick, very thick and viscous spirit, very bold at 65.9%. I do encourage trying this with a drop of water if you feel so inclined.
That is fascinating. Because on the nose, I was getting a lot less of the 50% peated component. I thought the maple was bang on, was very rich. You can sort of tell, those drams where you can tell from the nose that it's going to be very unctuous and have good viscosity. But then a lot of the, it's definitely an earthiness and a sootiness, not like a smokiness on it. But that's all on the palate for me, or mostly on the palate.
Rob makes an interesting point here. Rob Akers says, "Wow, there's no middle; it's all front and finish." That's a very astute call, because some whiskies do feel that way sometimes, and you get that sort of like where it's all like lots of lots on the nose, lots on the finish, but the palate is sort of like lacking a bit. And I always say to that, like, you could be entirely right. It's just one of those things where it's like maybe try it with a few more drops of water again. Let the water just get into that spirit a bit more, and see how that behaves. I'm going to try that exactly right now.
It's quite nice around the sides. I agree 100% with Rob. It's a Craig Johnson used to call them donuts. It sort of hits the front, goes around and down, but there's not a heap on the mid palate, which isn't necessarily a problem. But it's because it's big on the back, I think. Which makes sense, because when you're sort of in this STR barrique, which is another cool element of this, it's a relatively new cask type for the history of whiskey. You get a lot of those like sweeter notes, more caramelization. And I think often when that plays beautifully with peat, it becomes a really rich and smoky, or in this case, earthy or more sooty back palate.
Yeah. I'm not, it's certainly an acquired taste, that one. Can we might just, Alex and I might just touch on STR for a second. You've seen a few of these come through the society, STR. STR stands for Shave Toast Reacher. And it was a type of cask format developed by the late great Dr. Jim Swan, who found a new way of cask treatment, which has accelerates the aging process of whiskey, and it's been used at this distillery. It's been used at Kilhoman. It's been used at Cavalan. Yeah, like I'm saying, like it's more than a dozen distilleries that he worked with in pioneering this technique. And if there's one thing that's changed in the last 20 years in whiskey maturation, it's definitely wood treatment and wood usage rather than any major changes to spirit. But that is starting to happen now as well.
Definitely. I feel like Kilhoman may be aside. Dr. Swan's sort of legacy is so good for New World whiskey because when you're going to have to get it out of the cask earlier anyway because of loss, you need it to be more active and in a gentle way, not just in a, pump it full of the cask. You need it to be more interactive with the cask. And the shaving first and then just doing that like retoast. I think Australia should do more of that.
Yeah, no, it's exactly right. Yeah, it's a good way to also. It is a very economical way of using casks as well. It gives old casks and especially old wine casks, they're all wine casks, a fresh lease of life, if you like, which is great to see. It's not just all first fills, but it is very different from where we've just been. That 19-year-old whiskey versus this 4-year-old.
I need to touch more, and I think I am going to drop a water in it. I'm hoping that the water rounds out the mid palate a bit, just for fun.
Yeah, see how you go there. Yeah, I forgot to tell you, I put a ticker on for tonight's live stream, which you can see down below. It's just Alex's name. That's all I did.
That's all we got time for, folks. It's all you need. Don't worry about it. Well, I'm back. This is my first live stream of 2024. It's happening. Durbridge thought he had it. He's gone. He's never coming back.
No, that's not true.
Adam, forget about it. You'll never see Adam again. Don't worry about it.
No, none of that is true. Alex is not steamrolling us. It's fine. It's fine.
Wooler? Who's that guy? Get rid of him.
Wooler. Who's Wooler? He's done. No, it's great to have different guests on each month as we go through these virtuals. And we love the fact that you, as members, love still attending these virtuals. They were absolutely hits during pandemic times, of course, but we've kept them going because they keep selling out, and we love that members still jump on them. Not everyone gets to watch it live, that's fine, but a lot of you will get time to watch it later, which is also fine.
So, touch of water, just quick update on that for me anyway. More peat on the nose, so I'll change my earlier comment. I think that's definitely coming through fully on nose and palate now. And a bit more on the mid. Yep. No, I think I would.
Yeah.
Probably, obviously, start without water always. I would say, but definitely, I think water would help that. If for those who haven't tried it yet, just a little bit, just to round it out.
Yeah. No. Comment from Rob. You'll never banish the Muzz though. That's true. You cannot banish the Muzz man. The Muzz man is everywhere. He's the king. For those who haven't seen Muzz on a stream, well, that means we need to get him on more often. But then the Muzz man will return. Ethan Wong just finished work and just in time to be tuning in from Perth. Good to see you, Ethan. Thank you so much for tuning in. And it's great to see people jumping on. If you bought a pack, Ethan, if you're in with the pack, then jump in. We're only 2 out of the 5 in, so we're about to head into the third one now. So you can play a bit of catch up, or you can spark those first 2 for later. Speaking of which, we might move on to our next whiskey whilst we're just enjoying it. We might go to 6.64, and that's Spanish castanets. And as I said, I had to drop the screen for a moment here because it's I was out of order last year. My order was out of whack. There it is. I won't tell you which distillery it is. I couldn't possibly tell you. I won't say it out loud, but there's a photo of the distillery, a nice aerial photograph of the distillery. In fact, the photograph is taken from a screen grab of a video I want to show you in just a second. There's a very unflattering angle. I used this photo just to show you people just how much a lot of these distilleries in Scotland, like Distillery 6, are workhorse distilleries. And often as single malt, single cask appreciators, we often look at these distilleries and go, wow, I love this idyllic distillery that's nestled in the heart of Speyside that produces this cult distillation and these amazing sherry casks and blah, blah, blah. Whereas most of the time, they are workhorse industrial sites where they don't, if they do have a core range, that no one buys it. And if they don't, then they all go into blends. And in fact, this distillery did remarkably got lots of attention during actually pandemics because of all the effort they put behind their amazing team. There's their team. And the bloke on the right, the distillery manager on the right there, is holding a dram of what looks like to be the Deveron 12. And that's because they use a different brand for their single malt as they do the distillery name. So they go by the name Deveron, and it's owned by Dewar's/Bacardi Group. A lot of this spirit goes into Dewar's. Dewar's have had a cracking few years in terms of their blends and what they're doing. But before we get too deep into this whiskey, I actually want to show just a quick little video for us all to have a look at here, if I can make that work. Here we go. This is from our friends over at the Single Cask. I thought I'd just show this real quick. No, sorry, I should have also mentioned there's no sound to that video. It's just some aerial photography of aerial videography of the distillery, just to give you some context as to where it is and just how much of a beautiful site it is, and just it makes you videos like that make me want to visit Scotland. Okay, so and it is all about the great outdoors. Why not?
Drams like this make me want to visit Scotland. This is incredibly good on the nose. I was thinking this would be something very different.
Now, it's funny you mention that, Alex, because the dram I'm pouring of this comes from the full-size bottle, because money where my mouth is, I put this as Bailey's Pick, and so I actually bought one of these for myself. So I'm going to pour a dram of that here. This is one of my favourite releases, no kidding, one of my favourite releases in the last few months by a long shot. It just, for me, I can't get over that immediate pecan pie on the nose. Like straight up pecan pie and cream. Like sweet pecans, hazelnuts.
It's caramel kind of taken to the edge, taken to really dark caramel.
Yeah, really dark caramel notes. Like that's soft. It's soft and leathery. It's cocoa powder. It's hazelnut. It's praline.
Yes, praline's a great call. It's
And this was just a remarkable cask. And this is the reason why I put it in this virtual, because it's an incredible whiskey. It's a 16-year-old deep, rich and dried fruits from Distillery 6 that is a technical and engineering brilliance of a distillery, and very strange stills and right-angle line arms and all sorts of stuff going on for that distillery. And I put this in the lineup because I was just like, this is so good.
It's also, I think, just absolute testament to this new thing of don't worry about all this full maturation sherry, just because it's sherry. Mellow, good, long maturation in bourbon, or long enough, and then just that clip of sherry to add all the right notes to it, but you just do not get like a saturated, fortified flavour. You get all the best bits out with a lovely like bourbon vanillic dessert base to it. That's brilliant.
That's a good way of putting it, actually, Alex. That whole sort of like a really good finish or extra maturation in a sherry cask can be like putting like glacé cherries on top of a vanilla sponge cake.
Exactly. Yeah. It's the compote on a cheesecake. It's the exactly. Yeah.
No, that's fantastic.
And I thought as well, with 16 years, deep, rich and dried fruits, and especially being Oloroso, being the sort of that known for being that slightly dirtier of the sherries and a bit more full on. It's and less sweet in particular. That is just beautifully balanced extra maturation.
It says in the full tasting notes in your menus, which arrived with your boxes, folks, it says, with a few drops of water, a more refined vista appeared, one that bound bananas and fresh figs to cured ham and toasted pine nuts. It's funny it says that because cured ham is actually one of those iconic tasting notes of Distillery 6. It's that nuttiness, it's that ham note that they sometimes get that. And I just love this whiskey. I'm going to try it with a few drops of water here just to see how it tempers out. It's not too high proof already though. It's 56.2.
I'm keen to try water because I am getting like no ham at the moment.
Do you get heaps of that cocoa dust and pecan pie thing going on?
Definitely that.
As soon as I tasted this, I was like, I have to have this, and it was an instant purchase for me after going through staff training on this one because it was just like, that rhubarb crumble and hazelnut praline.
Yeah,
this is one of my favorite deep rich and dried fruits of the last few months by a long shot. It's just got a lovely balance. You can still taste the distillate. You can taste.
Read my mind. Yeah, read my mind. The balance is perfect, and that we nerd out, but I think what we say is balance, a lot of people use other words for. But when they like things like it's really smooth for its ABV, or it's really good mix of different flavors from different casks. Like really what they're talking about is a well-balanced dram. But from a spirit production point of view, this is just very well done.
Great comment from Betty Petrie. Good to see you, Betty. Says, this conjures memories of Glaver liqueur, which I used to consume in my youth. I know exactly where you're coming from, and I remember Glaver as well. Yeah. I think Glaver still exists. I'm sure it does. I haven't seen it in a while, but then again, I'm not really in that section of a commercial bottle shop these days. I know that sounds really... that's really...
Mate, look at the wall behind you. You don't need a bottle shop trip. You're okay.
No, I just did a quick Google. Glaver still exists. You can get it at First Choice for about $50. There we go. I didn't realize it was still a thing. I remember Glaver though, and I wonder if how the recipes changed for that. And Dov does agree with that. He says it does. Yeah, it does. It's got this lovely sort of like Glaver and like Spanish liqueur. I've added a drop of water now. I get that cured ham thing going on now.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some water to elicit this because it's all dessert for me at the moment. I'm gonna see if I can.
I love tasting
some savoury Iberico out of it.
Yeah, squeeze some Iberico out of that. It's just a fun drink of this one, and it's
mine's got a bit herbal. Yeah, I can see it does savoury up a bit with water. Yeah,
less of that pecan pie, but it's still just so tasty and such a good drinker. And you know what? It's one of those things, and I've said it before. On the website, it says Bailey's pick on this one because it honestly is, and I'm put my money where my mouth is. I bought one because it's just like that's so good, and I cracked it as soon as it arrived because like that's just an enjoyable whiskey. In fact, I think I poured a lot of this out at Christmas. I think this is a Christmas release. This is around November outturn. This one initially featured, but I was like I said, this is not a new release, but this is one that I wanted to put in this lineup to go. This is an enjoyable summer sipper.
Yeah, well, I'll probably have to get one now, and I missed it. Missed it when it came out.
Just say that a bit quietly. It's fine. It's just fine. I have to get one. I just have to sneak one of those into the cart. Yeah.
That's right. Yep. No one buy them. No one sell out until I've gotten off this live. But
no, we've got this one in stock. It's okay. We've got 29 of these. Okay, yeah, it hasn't moved very quickly, but that's okay because I think people taste it. They go, oh, okay, here we go.
I mean, that's a great point, though, isn't it? About we talk about this a lot because both sides of this, but sleeper casks, right? It's just so enjoyable when you can, no expectations. It's off the radar. You don't have like any particular preconception. Like you might not have tried the distillery before. If you're relatively new to SMWS, you almost certainly haven't with some of our sleeper casks because they don't really do single malt even. But then like you just find one and you go, I just love the notes, or I bought it because I tried it at a partner bar or something, and it's just totally your dram. It didn't matter what distillery it was, didn't matter how old it was, whatever. You just go, that is unbelievably delicious.
That's the one, exactly. Yeah. Well, you asked Dov, where's the QR for it? My bad. There it is. Scan the screen. So SMW 6.64 there if you were keen. But you know what? They are all on the website. These are all available at the moment. So no mad rush. But I do encourage you to jump on this if you are keen because it's this is like absolutely one of my favourite picks of the most recent couple of outturns that we've had.
Definitely getting it's changed entirely, which I love because if you put water in something or you leave it for a while and get some air into it, it's basically 2 drams for the price of 1, in my opinion. But that's dessert without water and like some sort of lovely Spanish antipasti thing with water. Herb bread instead of cake, ham and like a little bit of savoury meat like maybe without the spice, but like that more intense, maybe like a chorizo, but like a non-spicy version.
Yeah,
There'll
there
be
is
a
a bit
name
of
for
chorizo
it.
going on there. Yeah, yeah.
There'll be some sort of special cured meat that is exactly what I'm talking about. I just haven't got the name for it. And then yeah, just I'm even getting like a little tiny bit of it's almost like a brine, like an olive brine.
Yeah, yeah. Bit of
It's
all
lovely.
I love it. I love the olive brine thing, which I do get out of Distillery 6. I often get that sort of olive juice, which is which is what their weird spirit does. Like that is
Mm,
it is a weird spirit Distillery 6, and I think it's one of those ones where it's like don't miss out on this kind of thing.
yeah.
Figs. What kind of figs? Are they ripe? Are they fresh figs?
Mm.
Where did you get them, Rob? Were they from the greengrocer or are they from Woolies? Woolies have got a bit of a bad rep at the moment, haven't they? Did anyone else watch Four Corners last night, or am I going way off tangent?
It's about to
Anyway.
become a soapbox here. Everyone buckle up.
No. I didn't think it was. I think it was very good. Not that I'm promoting anyone else's show or anything, and it doesn't matter. It's the ABC. It's fine. And Rob says answers with more figs.
Internet warrior level figs. Caps lock on.
Clock on, folks. It's internet warrior level of figgage going on here. All right. I'm going to park the rest of that for a moment.
Yeah,
And
that
I'll
is
come
lovely
back
though.
around to it. But it's time now for us to move on to
It's very special. It's very
something
special.
very special. Yeah, something very special indeed. I'm going to bring this up on screen here. 93.204. Here we go. By the beautiful Briny Sea. Now, this is an entire cask in celebration of the 40th anniversary of the SMWS, exclusive to SMWS Australia. This was our 40th birthday, international 40th birthday Australian exclusive cask that we picked out. So I want to just show a bit of history first. I've made Alex and I a bit smaller here, so I can just show you the full screen here of just some of the history behind this particular whiskey. First of all, it's an oily and coastal, which is a favourite flavour profile of members that I know. And second of all, it's an 8-year-old oil and coastal in celebration of, and it's a 93. It's from Campbelltown. So this is a Campbelltown single cask that we're very happy to be able to get and share around here. Let me just go to the next slide. Now, the artwork on that front label of someone sitting by the sea, by the briny sea, enjoying a dram in the Australian summer was the whole idea behind this artwork was the brief that I provided. I want to show some of the background of the brief behind for the artist. So I sent all these images over to the artist of what we were kind of looking for, which was this look and feel of just sort of like bold lines and sort of curvy, sort of relaxed atmosphere, sort of sense of what's going on. It doesn't need to be overly ornate on the label. I want it to be sort of bold, dark lines and bold colors, sort of thing, like really standout label, but just signifies the relaxed attitude of this cask in summer. And so even like sent over sort of ideas of what Keith Haring artworks and things that look a bit like in this sort of color profile and this sort of style that we were sending over to the artist in the UK who helped develop this. And so you're literally looking at the actual images I sent and saying, this is sort of the look and feel. This is sort of the style that we're aiming for. That, summer with a bicycle and a camera and a dram, kind of like it's just sitting on a cask by the sea, and it's a Campbelltown whiskey that we get to share around. And single casks from this distillery, from Distillery 93, are quite coveted, especially more and more at the moment, where they fall into this sort of category of being a bit sort of cult-like following. In this case, this is an example of one. This is not the cask, I should say. But they do these distillery festival casks that are hugely sought after, and people often fly to Campbelltown or drive to Campbelltown in Scotland to get them. And, like I said, we're just really lucky to be able to source this cask out from this distillery. I can't make it any more obvious of where it's from. But we were very lucky to be able to get this cask and share it around with members. And like I said, better late than never, because we were supposed to release this in around October, November last year. But shipping schedules around the world are always are not a fine art. They're a fuzzy logic, and something that you think might take 2 or 3 months by boat to get here, it sometimes takes 4 or 5 months to get here. And so by the time it landed, I think it landed just before Christmas, and we sort of went, unless we do a Christmas Day release, which no one sees because they're surrounded by ham and bubbles on a hot Christmas day. There's no point. We'll just wait until we get a good opportunity to release it, even if it is a 40th anniversary for last year. But we managed to put it out. I can see people still scanning QR somewhere. So, but the one I had ready for this one, of course, was just here. So we've got this one available. About half the cask vanished on release day just last Friday, which was great. Friday before last, which was great to see because it's just great to see members really jumping into this lovely 93. And this is the first full cask we've had since Alex Moore's his own bottling for the Gathering. So this is something we're very excited to share with you, with members exclusive to Australia. So
And
that's the story behind this. Yeah.
This is the last of the 40th anniversary special celebrations, I guess, because this was sort of not the Gathering selection, but the one for us for the 40th, and then that wraps up 2023's Mavericks year.
Absolutely, that's it. This is the last cask for the 40th anniversary casks that we'll ever see. All the rest have either sold out or there's a couple left online, I think, but this was the Australian exclusive. Also, for reference, I tasted about it must have been, I think, 14 or 16. I can't remember. It was either 14 or 16 samples, and this is the one I settled on. I wanted something that was oily and coastal, that sort of sat in that sort of profile, and I wanted something that was fun, approachable, affordable, drinkable, and just something that could get into every member's hands who wanted one. There was one other cask that we tasted in particular, which was fantastic. I'll admit. I won't talk too much on details of that cask, but it was it would have ended up being something like $590 in outturn, and you go, yeah, that if I take a whole cask of that, people have to be really keen on that particular code and age statement, which would have been very cool, but committing to a whole cask of it is a big ask. So you go, well, let's go something like really like bright, and it's got the lovely for this particular cask. It had the thing that clinched it for me was had that perfect balance on the left side of being sort of like machine parts and oily tractors and hay bales, but on the other side, some of the teenage 93s we see often get this lovely sort of like maple syrup and oil jar kind of notes, and they pick up this much more sort of syrupy complexity. But I found this one had it. I was like, well, that has the syrupy complexity of like the 15 to 18-year-olds we've seen from this distillery, but it's an 8-year-old. So I was like, done. That's perfect.
It's incredible. By the Sea is a great call for a name. Well, and you can see why a panel would land there, because it's all of that and a lovely complex amount of citrus. It's like when you put lemon onto fish and chips and you get that citrus on the palate. Really, is what I'm talking about. The nose it's a little bit, but on the palate it's like a burst of citrus, as well as all the Singer sewing machine oil and all the things we expect from 93.
And I know it's a cop out to say this, but I really like if the code on this was 27.204. Come on.
This is the thing, right? And like you touched on, it's now being sought after at the festivals level, but even just the spirit has not, for some reason, reached that level of cult status. But surely people are going, okay, well, the one that is now absolutely unattainable and a good whiskey, but you can't get it for love nor money. This one you need neither. Go for it. And it's just not,
need to be a member of the society, and the rest looks after itself.
That's it. But the spirit quality is so good. And I've got to say, I mean, I don't you shouldn't have favourites or whatever. But Ian McAllister is one of my favourite master distillers. I think he does amazing work. At this distillery that have we named it?
I don't think we have. I think we've gotten away with not saying the name, but
lots of pictures are up. I haven't actually named it yet, but you can Google it. I mean, obviously the name's there. The name's on there. But
I wouldn't possibly know. Neither Alex or I would know even what distillery this is. From looking at the screen right now, we have no idea, but it is that distillery. So that's that should narrow it down for you. But we still have a few bottles of this to go around. I think about 100 bottles or so of the 214 we brought in. It's only been out for a week and a half or so, and we're just really happy that members have actually really enjoyed this, and to see it's arriving in people's mailboxes and being opened and enjoyed on socials and whatnot, because it's like I said, it's a special cask for us. It's a special cask for me, something that I got to pick out personally, and one that we get to share around with you as members of the club.
I think the call was dead right, Matt, because this is definitely one you would share it around, but you'd also have it very happily just as a daily and then you would replace it. Like you'd
Yeah.
want another one of it. And the fact that there's still a heap hanging around because we've got the whole allocation is great. Like when you get something special once in a while that's you want on the shelf for a while, like a beach coma Maverick release or
Yeah.
heresy release.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you just put it there, and when you kill it, you know you probably can get another bottle. Unlike most things that we have.
I know a couple of members who bought more than 3 of these already. Actually, quite a few members who bought more than 3. And then quite a few members have bought 2 already because they know it's one of those ones where it's like open it, share it, have it on the shelf, and another one that you just got ready to go.
Yeah.
It's a fun drinker, and I can't fault it. I'm really happy with it. I'm a bit too close to it to fault it, to be honest. I mean, I picked the cask, and it's funny actually. If we can just touch on that point for a second, every time you taste a cask sample, and I'll show you what they look like. I mean, most of the time they just come in these. What's that? 200ml bottles or 300 or 400ml bottles that are sort of literally cask samples, and you always hope when you taste that sample to when it's bottled 3 months later or something, and then it arrives 6 months after that or 9 months after that, and you go, I've been picking that cask sample from a year ago. There's a part of me that always goes, gee, I hope it still tastes as good as the sample.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, it's better. It's like, it's even better than I remember it. And you come back to the sample, and if you've got some left of a cask sample, and you taste the finished product again later on the down the track, if you're lucky enough to do that, you go, okay, that's cool. And in fact, if I'm to brag for a second, we've got another cask to pick out for something special coming up soon. So there's some samples that just arrived. Goodies, goodies, goodies. Never stops at the old SNWS. We love it.
It's also one thing we haven't talked about just on the quaffability, and when you're doing samples, because you triggered my memory there with thinking when you're doing sample choice blind, you don't have any data. I know it's a bit different when you're getting sent sort of the duty-free ones, but if you're sort of just trying to analyze with no inputs, I think a really interesting thing about this is this does not, and I know I've said about a few, doesn't drink like 61.3.
No,
this is a very quaffable dram, because it took me straight to, if you want to take a bottle camping, or you want to, like I usually take Kalila fishing, all those things.
Yeah.
Like this would be something you would take on a bit of a, by the beach, I guess, but just hiking or whatever. And the
hiking dram for
ABV
sure.
just belies the flavour belies the ABV, I should say. It's another point on balance. It's very well balanced.
Yeah. This is something you could put in your hip flask for sure. This is a mountaineering dram for me. This is something you want, something oily, coastal, and delightful after a bit of a walk. More 3-in-1 oil than single oil. What is 3-in-1 oil? Is that like what is 3-in-1 oil? Is it like Rob? What is that? It's like one of those general purpose oils rather than sewing machine oil or something. Proculio, good to see you, mate. My favourite distillery got me into Campbelltown. Yeah, nice. That's so good to hear, and it often is people's gateway distillery to get great Campbelltown whiskies. There's only 3 operating distilleries in Campbelltown right now, but there's about to be 5 or something. There's 2 I know in production at the moment in the area, so there might be more, but there's about to be 5. And Andrew Moat asks, I knew he was going to ask this.
I knew someone would.
Yeah. Can the Bailey cask catch and overtake the Moors cask? Well, look, there's like 10 bottles of the Alex Moors cask left, and there's about 100 of this one. So look, unless you guys are really thirsty and order 99 of these tonight or something, then I doubt it. Alex's cask has also been extremely popular because he picked an absolute winner. You got it. General machine oil, honing oil, etc. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I like that. I've got to drink some more oil. I've got to drink some more honing oil. No, I actually do have a bottle of honing oil somewhere as it was like, I think it's a knife oil sort of thing. I've got somewhere here for sharpening.
I've got every time oil, like really like good quality oil, or I shouldn't say good quality. What I consider the nice flavor note oils in whiskey is mentioned, as opposed to sometimes we were talking before about quite a while ago around some of those 93s with the real pit stop F1 burnout level of oil.
Love it.
When it's and I can't quite tolerate that much, but this one, if the oil on this is oil, then I'll take it. But I always imagine those really ornate, like with the long spout and the little the little trippers, and just putting that into like a tiny gaslight or something. That's got such a nice mellowing out of all the fruit, or not mellowing out, counterpoint to the fruit.
Counterpoint, yeah. Would you say it's Valvoline?
I've just put water in mine. Like there's
Okay.
quite a good spot, and I'm actually now it's gone full fruit bomb.
Yeah.
It's gone absolute like mangoes, pineapples, like a Carmen Miranda hat of flavors.
Mm. Anyway, look, we're really happy with that
Mm,
release. We
that's good.
we're really happy that we've managed to put that out there into the wild. I've left the QR up on the screen there for a bit if anyone wants to grab a bottle of that. Um, Otherwise, we might move on to our fifth and final dram for this evening, in this evening's virtual, and that is a horned beast. So you've all seen a few photos before of this distillery. In fact, in the last few virtuals, we've featured this very distillery. So I'm not going to delve too far into the photo albums for this one, although that's that one on the screen right now gives you a pretty good idea of where it is.
I
But
think
it
it's the
is an
furthest I've ever been from home. I would say that distillery
yeah,
close to.
yeah, exactly. It could be the very furthest you've ever been from home if you've been here,
Yeah.
which is quite exciting. But there we go, 4.300. We've cracked the 300 mark with the fours. Alex.
Well, I find this fascinating because obviously we've actually well and truly exceeded it, but it's a really good lineup tonight to do a little bit of a. Obviously, we nerd out about this stuff and we wonder
Mm,
why things happen. Crack the 300 with the fours, but then you go back to Distillery 5, first dram, and we've only hit 100. Good landmark, but when you think about the fact that they've been chosen at the same time, they've both been around since 1983 as codes. Um, what's happening there? And I think there's a lot of factors in acquisition. Obviously, things like they won't sell you any more casks. That happens every now and again. Usually, distilleries come back, but I also think there's a huge point to be made for where distilleries have massive difference of what they can put out in terms of flavour. And so when you're looking at cask procurement, and the SMWS has done a few different ways of procuring casks, from buying mature spirit because it was all you could get when Mad Pip and his friends were knocking on doors trying to get a single cask just for the syndicate, all the
mm,
way through to now where there's lots more, well, there's almost total maturation control by new make, etc.
yeah.
But I think Distillery 4 is one of those codes that is almost in every flavor profile. And I think when you got a absolute, you can sort of play in all those spaces. You work in every different cast type. You can do every different preference from quite light and floral and almost unnoticeably peated, all the way
Mm,
through to some of the heaviest peated we've done. You get that desire for lots more cast numbers. Whereas, and it's
mm,
not nothing against low cast numbers, but when you get something that is just does what it does well, yep, we release those casks, they clock along. But things like I'd say the same for 53s, threes, uh, and fours, an example of that, where it works in sherry, it works peated or barely peated, it works in bourbon.
mm,
It's the
mm.
full gamut. Um, and it's really interesting when you compare it to, say, an unpeated example, where you look at, say, Glenmurray,
Yeah,
35s. Another, what I usually describe as like a canvas spirit, like it's good spirit, it's well made, but it just works across almost any maturation profile you can throw at it.
yeah,
And so then you just get such a good range within our releases from that distillery.
yeah. That's very cool. It's for me. It's just one of those exciting milestones where we say we've had such a great relationship with Distillery 4. It's such a great spirit.
Yeah,
Like it's everything. This it's one of those distilleries. A bit like Distillery 53, where how many times can you really hand on heart say, "Oh, that's not very good"?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
the consistency of quality output from this distillery is mind-bogglingly good, which is so
It's a great
exciting.
call because 53 gets the reputation of the Mr. C, and I think that's well earned. Like it is a very
Yeah,
consistent, well made dram. It pretty much only changes depending on the cask you put it in. But I think 4 is a close runner for being. If there wasn't a Distillery 53, then 4 would be a front runner for being consistent.
yeah, no,
Um,
absolutely. It's well worth noting as well, by the way, that this one's called a horned beast for the reason of it's the panel remarked on it being quite like they even said unusually peated and powerful. like quite a bit more sort of powerful than like the distillate from this distillery usually produces.
And when I was
And
chatting there about sort of the versatility of it,
mm,
on the nose, I was thinking, oh yeah, look, this is going to be potentially one of those. It goes in either direction. It's a little bit peaty, which is nice, but then sometimes you get some fruit. On the palate, I can see why they landed on that.
yeah, super like bits of those like English mustard going on here.
Yeah, I'm getting quite a like a lovely like bitter coffee bean as well,
Mm,
which plays into the earthiness of it.
that's good. That's good. Have you added water to yours? Have you tried that with a drop yet, or
Not yet. No, I'm
because
trying to
it's
pull
up
a bit
there,
more out of the
61.3.
nose.
61.3,
Yeah.
folks. That's pretty heavy. Approach with care. Um, sorry, that was actually a typo. Sorry, Rob. I'd usually peated and powerful, but no, it is in the peated category. I've checked the screen since. It is definitely in the peated category. It's right in your menus. It was wrong on the screen. That was my mistake. Definitely in the peated category. So not heavily peated, but peated, and it is more peated than their distillate usually is. So you will notice something interesting on this label. However, let's just talk about this for a second. This is the only whiskey tonight that we cannot properly call a single cask. It is a single malt whiskey. It says on the front label, ex-bourbon hogsheads, plural, for the initial cask, and then final cask, a first fill ex-bourbon. So this one was spent 9 years in ex-bourbon hogsheads, which is when the society bought this spirit, and then an additional 4 years in a first fill ex-bourbon barrel. So pretty long extra maturation. But it was an opportunity where the spirits team were offered up a whole bunch of ex-bourbon hoggies from this distillery, and it's like it makes sense. It makes sense to buy them, like as if you'd pass that up. So that's why we've seen some at 11, 12, 13. We saw some at 9. We saw some bottled pretty much as soon as they got them as well. Shouldn't have a .xxx code if it's not a single cask. Fight me. Look, we actually take that kind of feedback pretty seriously on board, though, Rob. I mean, we're small enough still as a club worldwide to be able to go, you know what, there's a good point to be made there. And the spirits team and marketing team listen to that kind of stuff. So, yeah, I mean, we'll pass it on. I think for this case, actually, if it's, I would be of the opinion if it finishes its life in a single cask for an additional maturation, in this case, 4 extra years in a single cask, it should have its own unique society identifier code. But maybe if there's some releases which are, 2 casks added together and then that was it, then that maybe shouldn't have a code. Anyway, look.
I'm with you, and I think the society saw. I mean, it's that constant problem, and we all talk. We talk across the bar top. We talk in the virtual chats and all this about what should be done. But the reality is, there's approaching 40,000 members globally, and everyone wants every cask, but everyone wants to chat about good whiskey and the same good whiskey. You don't want just Australia gets all this different stuff that no one else sees. They have their thing, and they just work on their own. And so I think it's difficult to pivot. And so you do things like small batch for festivals. You do heresy bottlings to spread the love and make sure everyone can taste the same liquid when they're in China or in Japan or in US and all that. There's got to be a place for everything. I think if we're weighing in, there's also a big difference, I think, between what we might want and what the SWA might let us put on bottles. And so sometimes you just go with what is the law.
And for those playing along at home, the SWA stands for the Scotch Whisky Association. They're basically the whiskey police.
Yeah. And to your point, Matt, and I think until very recently, actually, I think we've seen some changes in their 2023 decisions on this. But absolutely, if it finishes its life in a single cask, it's a single cask.
That's right. I mean, it's even if that wasn't technically a single cask, if it finishes its life in one, it should be perhaps have a cask number. It should be something that is easily identifiable.
That's it.
And Rob, no, you're entirely right. You know what? Actually, I agree with you, but also don't disagree. I also disagree in some ways. But key is transparency at the end of the day. That is true. It's all about good transparency, about understanding what's in your drink. If you look exactly at that label that's on the screen right now, there's nothing hiding there. There's nothing saying it's from a single cask. It says single malt Scotch whisky at the bottom there. It even says in the small on the tasting note, single malt originally from ex-bourbon hogsheads married in this cask. So that they are pretty clear and cut about what it is, which I think is great. There's transparency. But I think the real word that I always like using instead of transparency is, does it have authenticity? And I know that sounds wanky, but it's true. It's like, does this product have authenticity? Is it an Orkney spirit that we're happy to authentically offer up to members and say we're proud of this whiskey? I think that's most important.
Absolutely, mate. And I think that was an interesting shift between the for a label nerd in the society. That was from the short-lived what I call the character era, which was when the stripes moved across the label.
Yep.
We had cask, and we only had one cask on there, which we'd always traditionally done. And then I think there was a bit of a member feedback was received, and when it was examples like this, or even just like our Distillery 6, a bourbon cask for a while, and then an Oloroso at the end. Let's say what it's been in initially, and then let's say what it's in for its single cask status, its final. And that was a very good initiative in my opinion, on these monogram labels. Tell us where it started, tell us where it finished.
Exactly. And the monogram label makes sense for a lot more reasons than we'll go into even right now, but just where the flavor, the moving flavor strip, spicy and sweet was just a nice...
The dreaded spicy and sweet, yeah.
But you couldn't read the name.
What distillery is it?
Yeah, what does it say? no one thought about that anyway.
See, what I think happened on that very, very quickly was that someone had read Tintin and the Secret of the Unicorn, where that amazing moment where he lays the 3 pieces of paper over each other and holds them up to the light and they reveal the full coordinates. And someone had gone, people are going to steam off the labels, hold up the full flavour profile. It's going to be beautiful. No one's doing that, guys. So just put a strip, tell us what flavour profile it is, move on.
Exactly.
Romantic, though.
Romantic, yeah. I actually liked the moving flavour strip bottlings. But then again, I think everyone just gets a bit nostalgic about what was rather than what is, and that's fine. By the way, Rob, on that comment you've made here, authenticity strokes hipster beard, mate. You know what? You'd actually rock a beard. You should strongly consider that, Rob. You would rock a full beard.
Rob had a lockdown beard. It looked pretty good. I've seen Rob in like a, it was good.
Yeah, there you go. Betty, by the way, Betty, good evening, everyone. Enjoyable to taste whiskey from different distillers, but I'm still a peated lover. Betty, you managed to do this whole tasting, and there wasn't a single Isla whiskey in lineup tonight. That was also by design. That was one of those cases where you go, you know what, there's a whole diverse amount of flavour in here that doesn't have to touch on Isla every time. But I'm glad you enjoyed that 300 especially. And all 5 casks that we've tasted tonight are available on smws.com/shop. If you're a member, just log in. If you're not a member, what are you waiting for? Just remember, folks, the one piece of feedback we get most from new members who join the society is, I wish I'd joined sooner. I've heard that one at least 100 times in the last 5 years alone. Where they say, this is fantastic. How did I not know about this? I wish I'd joined sooner. So introduce your friends to the society. We love having members along. And the more members we get, the more casks we get, the more allocation we get. It's just self-perpetuating. Great to see you all. Thank you, Rob. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dov. Thank you, Betty. Thank you, everyone who tuned in live. There was about 18, 20 people watching live, which is great. And we really do appreciate all your support and coming along to these virtual tastings. Alex Moores, can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for tonight.
Anytime.
And now that you've hijacked everyone else's jobs for virtual tastings, we will see you more. And I'll get a mask made of your face so I can just wear that in the tastings as well, just to satisfy.
Do it. Yep, do it. I'll do a quick shout out, if that's all right, to Melbourne members, because obviously with being in Melbourne, being in Victoria, so there's a few things. We've got some very exciting things this year, but I'll limit it to just the start of the year. I'm not going to tell you what they are, but I thought I'd flag that usually we have events out like with a little bit of notice. I'm just working on a few things, so you haven't seen much past March in your outturns, but keep an eye on, let's say, well, keep your eye on the emails, but over the next, say, 2 to 3 weeks, we'll be confirming a lot of exciting format events for at least the first half of the year. Probably some more notice for things happening in the second half of the year as well. But I've got a big commitment to myself to make 2024 as big as 2023, which was a huge year for us in Victoria. So stay tuned on your emails and your outturns for events.
Rock and roll. Thanks, folks. See you all soon.